care will be the last generation at SeaWorld. And as you know, we haven't taken a whale or dolphin from the wild in many, many years. Whales almost 40 years. But by ending our breeding program, this will be the last generation. And I have to stress to all of you that this was an incredibly difficult decision that cannot be underestimated of how difficult it was. And a lot of us were involved in making it. I will say I've been in business a long time. I'm 56 years old. I have never had a decision that was this difficult. And ultimately, SeaWorld was in a paradox. On one hand, a lot of people come to our parks because they love our whales, and we know that you love our whales. But unfortunately, society was changing in a way that for many people, having whales under human care was a blockage for them to come to the parks. And we saw that growing in our research. It was a barrier for people to come. In fact, in some research, it was a number one reason people wouldn't come to our parks. And that trend didn't seem to be abating. And it was even worse when you looked at the younger generation coming up, like the millennials. The data was even worse. So we had a very difficult decision to make. I will say that attitudes have definitely changed. We feel like we have to change with it. And I suppose for me, the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was legislative efforts. We were quite certain that in California, legislation would come against us, and we saw some inkling of that with the Coastal Commission decision last fall. And once something is illegal, or if we were legislated out in California and it moved east, it would be very difficult over time to fight that trend, as we've seen with other initiatives that start in California and then move east. So we decided we needed to get ahead of this and move to a positive narrative about SeaWorld. Because as you all know, as our fans, SeaWorld has an incredible story to tell about our rescue operations, how we help animals, how we educate about their plight in the wild. But the orca issue is becoming a barrier between our story and a growing audience. And for us to grow in the future, we felt we had to do this. The second decision was about our orca shows. So we are phasing out our theatrical shows, and we're introducing an all-new orca encounter, which we're actually very excited about. The basic intent here is that the environments will be more natural, their behaviors will be natural, things that you see them do in the wild, and we've engaged our zoo community in this. They're excited about it, and we will shift to that over a 3-year period. San Diego first, then San Antonio, and then Orlando a year after that. We will still have timed experiences so that people can know when these orca encounters are going to happen, but they'll be organized around how they communicate, how they play, how they socialize, and not really there for entertainment as much as education and being interesting. So that's what we're headed to from a show standpoint. The third thing that we announced was this partnership with the Humane Society of the United States. And many of you have emailed me about this. I know some of you question this, and I understand that. We have been adversaries for many, many years. But let me just tell you quickly the story of how it happened. There was really, the organizations had never talked to each other in many, many, many years. And we had a joint friend, a congressman from California, who trusted both of us and knew both of us. And since we both trusted, his name was John Campbell from California, since we both trusted him, we agreed to meet. And we got to know each other over a number of months and decided that we actually, as we talked through issues, clearly we do not agree on everything, and we will never agree on everything. However, we found we agreed on a lot of things, like we both organizations love animals. Both organizations are passionate about doing what they can to protect animals in wild places. So we decided if we would focus on common things together, we could do more good than fighting each other. And we have decided to focus on ending commercial whaling, ending the commercial seal hunts, the slaughter in Canada that happens annually, and also trying to put a stop to shark finning, which is a horrific practice to get fins for shark fin soup. We're also making our parks more sustainable, And we are, although we already serve sustainable seafood, we're going to move to eggs from cageless chickens and make some other moves going forward. The one that I'm actually the most passionate about personally is going from being a leading rescue organization in the United States to being a global leader. We want to be the #1 rescue organization in the world, and we already are very close. The vision is to have global rescue centers, whether we build them or partner with people, because no one, our adversaries, our friends, our allies, no one disagrees that rescue is needed. These animals have no place to go, especially marine mammals, without SeaWorld and without our resources and without our vets and our wonderful our zoo community. We could not take care of these animals. So I'm very excited about that one. And I think it's going to be a relationship that will have its ups and downs, I'm sure, and we won't always agree, but at least we're dialoguing and we're talking as opposed to just fighting. And I think that's overall a thing maybe this country could use a little bit more of. The truth is, again, these were very, very difficult decisions. And together, we feel, in totality, we had to do these things to prepare SeaWorld for a new future that's out there today. But before I open it up for questions, I want to pause for a minute and sincerely thank you for your support. I know that you guys are the reason we are all here. You basically pay for all of us to do what we do. And we love you for that. And we're sorry if some of you did not like this decision or question it. But on the other hand, I hope you understand why we had to do this to build a better day and a better narrative for the future of SeaWorld. Before I open up, I want to read one comment from an avid fan. Her name's Heather. I'm sorry, Heather, if this embarrasses you, but you wrote a post today that was very meaningful to all of us, and I read it. And in your blog, Heather said, "I still choose to support SeaWorld. The future of SeaWorld has changed, but what has not changed is the true passion to educate and teach the world to care for animals so our future can learn to appreciate them too." So thank you, Heather, for that. And at our core, that's what SeaWorld is all about. And we at SeaWorld and our board and our executive team, we are excited about the future. And it's up to us to deliver an incredible experience to all of you and help make the world a better place for animals and their habitats. So with that, let's get started with questions. I'm going to change screens here because they're being fed into me. Right. The first one from Tina. She asked, why isn't SeaWorld moving forward with Blue World Project? First of all, I think a lot of people don't realize our habitats are the largest of their kind in the world, or amongst the largest. They way exceed any government standard. And we felt instead of spending hundreds of millions of dollars to expand the size, since they are already very large compared to others, we wanted to focus our time, our effort, and our money on enhancing the existing facilities and taking some of the best from the Blue World vision and putting in our existing facilities, and then use the other money for other animals and also our rescue operations. Moving to the next one, Haley from California. How do you plan to stop orcas from breeding naturally? And we have gotten this question a lot. I think, first of all, people should know that all zoos and aquariums, if they're part of the AZA community, which is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, we all control breeding to one degree or another. That is a common practice in the industry, and we already do today to some extent. We will not do anything that puts the health and welfare of our animals at risk. Never have, never will. We have an incredible team. I think the best zoological team in the world that's been tasked with doing this. And they will also engage with others in the AZA community, the contraception experts, to make sure we do it the best way possible. So let me see. The next one, Melissa. Why partner with the Humane Society of the United States? I think I pretty much addressed that already, but let me just say, I understand people's concerns. Anytime you get two adversaries who used to only fight, try to come together, there will be issues. and I'm not denying that. Wayne wouldn't deny that. But I sat there in many meetings with him, getting videotaped, and like at the CBS Good Morning segment, it would be one thing if I said our whales are not suitable to release because they were born under human care, they're etc., or our rescue operations are critical. It's quite another to have an adversary for years say these are not animals suited for release, and SeaWorld's rescue operations are incredibly important. Even though they may disagree on breeding issues, they agree that rescue is critical and SeaWorld needs to exist because of that. Toby, next question. Toby asks, is SeaWorld supporting HSUS financially? I'm so glad you brought that up. The answer is no. And I think there's a mistaken notion out there when I read some of your comments that because we're working together on things we have in common, that somehow we agree on everything, or we're saying everything HSUS does we agree with, or vice versa, and that's not true. And Wayne and I have both said that. We will not agree on everything, but we're trying to focus on what's positive. And remember, the $50 million we've committed to rescue, that's our money going to those rescue operations, not to HSUS. So Alan asks, we've defended SeaWorld for so long. What are we supposed to say to our friends and neighbors who think we just caved to PETA and the like? I understand that sentiment, and I've heard that myself, even from our own employees. A couple thoughts. One is, and I truly believe this, we didn't cave to PETA or any activist organization. We changed because society's mindset was changing. The truth is our customer base was shrinking, and the data said it was shrinking. More and more people distrusted us and didn't support having orcas under human care. Now, how that narrative was formed is a variety of issues: documentaries, legislation, social media, the millennial generation, all influence that. But we are changing because society is changing. PETA will always be there. PETA will always disagree with us. And I do differentiate. I personally don't think HSUS and PETA are the same, but that's a longer conversation, probably for a different time. Wow, we have Scott from the UK. Holy cow, I hope he's not there. It's really early in the morning. Thanks for staying up so late. You originally said that it was totally unfair and against the whales' natural rights if they were prevented from naturally breeding. How come you now think it's okay? I understand why you would feel like that's inconsistent. I think in an ideal, I know in an ideal state, ideal world, we still think that's the best possible thing, all things considered. However, like I said earlier, all zoos and aquariums do control breeding to one extent or another. I think if they had their way, they would love us to be just a rescue organization, but we cannot maintain the diversity of population with just rescue animals. We have a lot of staff and we have a lot of facilities, and so we have to keep a certain population maintained. So we will continue to breed as necessary to have a genetically diverse population and use our facilities correctly. Obviously, we will maximize all the rescues we can possibly take, but as you probably know, we don't control that situation. The government controls rescue, where they can be released or where they go if they can't be released. We make none of those decisions, and we release 100% of what we can release. The ones we can't, if we're asked to take them by the government, we'll take them. But that's why breeding will continue to play a role with these other animals that we will continue to have. Heather I wonder if this is the same Heather that wrote the blog. Heather from Florida, what kind of changes are you planned for the whales environment? Well, Heather, like I said earlier, I've asked our head of zoo, Chris Stoll, and our head of entertainment, Anthony Esparza, to take the best elements that were most exciting about Blue World and see if we could put those into our facilities over the next 5 years. I don't have a specific answer to what that is, other than the first step is transitioning our show pools into a much more natural environment and make the orca encounters a more natural setting with natural behaviors. That's what we're going to focus on first, because that's over the next 3 years. Carol from New Jersey, will the orcas be out of those pools and no more shows? Like I said earlier, Carol, what's ending is the theatrical element of that they're just for entertainment. Now they're primarily there for the education efforts, but we still have a desire to make it interesting. Just like a really good documentary done well is interesting. There's no reason it can't be, and because we want to educate future generations. In every encounter, we'll have some description of how these whales are in plight in the wild, whether it's southern residents that are going extinct and are on the endangered species list off of Washington, or the problems in England with whales and PCB poisoning. Those are all issues we want guests to be aware of, and so they can act. We want to inspire people to act. Connor from the UK, what will happen to the trainers? That we are going to have our whales for a number of years, in fact, probably decades, because of their length of life. I have met personally with 2 of the 3 parks. I've sat in a room for a couple hours with the trainers, just answering their questions. I'm doing it tomorrow morning in Orlando. They will still be here for a very, very long time, and their passion for the whales means that they want to stay because they know that they can take care of them better than anybody, and I know that that's true. All right, next question. Jan asks, why not build a coastal sea sanctuary for Tilikum to be retired to last year? No whale or dolphin. Yeah. So yeah, we have gotten that question. Tilikum is a very, very old male whale. The life expectancy is a very debated topic. But we feel at his age, it's not a wise thing to move him at 35 years old. He does have social stimulation today with other whales. He would be alone if we did that. And we just feel like the other whales we have, almost all of our whales were born at SeaWorld. They'd never known another place, and they are with predominantly their families. And we don't think it's wise to move them into a wild environment that they've never been part of and take that risk. Who pays for it? Who takes the risk if they die, if there's a natural disaster, oil slick, their immune systems aren't used to it. All those risks make it a difficult move, in our belief. Jennifer from Florida. Many of us have looked into HSUS and not feel that they are an organization that is well run or morally right in several things they do. Communicate with them, sure, but why partner with them? Doesn't it send the wrong message that you endorse them? It's a good question, Jennifer. And like I said before, I want to differentiate between partnering with somebody on things you can agree with, but also necessarily agreeing with them on everything. I mean, an analogy, maybe it's a bad analogy, but it just pops in my head. So we work, when Reagan worked with Gorbachev, Russia versus the United States, they disagreed on a lot, but they did agree on taking down the Berlin Wall and having freedom in that city, or having 2 different countries who are at odds join together to fight terrorism. I think that's the only way you get positive things done. Again, I can't speak to their issues of fundraising. I don't know the detail, but I have met Wayne, and we do have a lot in common on helping animals in the wild. And we'll have to take the relationship, a year at a time. And all relationships have issues. So, next one from California, from Europe to California. Tyler from California. Once Shamu is gone, what will be SeaWorld's biggest draw? Other shows and rides. Well, first of all, that's probably decades away. Let's say in the 40 or 50-year range. However, we're already looking at ways to do that. We have 800 species of animals, and we survey people's reaction to all of them, and people are equally as passionate about penguins and dolphins and other animals that we have. Sloths is a really popular one. Remember our mission. It's about helping animals in wild places. We have our rides like Mako. We have a launch coaster coming in one of our other parks where we will talk about sea rescue in a launch coaster. There's lots of ways to communicate our mission and our passion and our vision without necessarily having Shamu over time. All that stops us there is creativity and imagination. Emily asks, how is Tilikum? He's a little better today. I actually get daily updates as to the whole executive team. It's kind of a day-by-day thing. He's a very old whale. He's being taken care of by, again, I think the best zoo team in the world. They love him dearly, and we continue to monitor it very, very closely. But today was a good day for him. Okay, next question. Julia from Indiana. If we wanted to discuss this more, is there any way we could do so? Yes. This is an experiment with this webcam approach. We are going to have live events at our parks, and you'll be invited to those. Each of the 3 SeaWorld parks. We'll have the park presidents there. I will try to make it, but if I can't make it, we'll have the zoo experts there so you can ask more questions. Because I know we can't get to everything in this mode, but our goal is we want to be transparent. We want you to be able to talk through your issues. We know you're not going to agree with everything, but we hope you understand what we do. And most importantly, we want you to stay as fans because we need your support through these difficult times for us. Abigail from South Dakota. Clearly, the animal rights agenda wants to progress further than ending killer whales in human care. What will you do to ensure SeaWorld and other zoological institutions do not lose the battle for other animals in human care? And I cannot stress enough how important I think this issue is. Unfortunately, we were at the tip of the spear. We were the only ones really with killer whales other than Lolita in the United States. And we were getting the focus of that attention. And the narrative of society changed. I personally am very motivated and convicted that we have to work with all AZA, all 250 zoological organizations in the United States, and fight on the behalf of zoos and aquariums. I've spoken to the incoming chairman and current chairman of AZA, their interim CEO, and we need to all communicate the benefit of what AZA institutions do for conservation. It takes money, it takes research, it takes expertise, and we have it. And it's not going to get solved alone by the government. You need organizations like us to solve these animal issues in the wild. So it's up to all of us to fight. Tani from Utah, I think that's the right pronunciations, Tauni, Tani from Utah. What is SeaWorld currently doing for wild populations of orcas? What conservation efforts are planned for the future? So our biggest effort right now is a financial commitment to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. We've committed $10 million over time. We've already put in $1.5 million for research on how to protect the southern residents pod, as I mentioned earlier. And they have some food supply issues. The salmon is lots of issues. Either it's contaminated or not. They're in plentiful amounts. And so the whales are dying. That's our first step, and there'll be more to come on that. Stephanie from Massachusetts, great state. Can you give us any specifics on how the new orca shows will be conducted? Really, what I've already said is about all I can say about it at this point. It's in development. We've got incredibly good talent on it from outside the company and inside the company because we need new ideas. I'm also said it earlier, but engaging our zoo community and our trainers in that. And there's actually a lot of excitement about that because we want to make it interesting to people, but also educational. Michael from Utah, you've been talking about animal protection organizations being opposed to sea cages. Can you name any responsible organization that wants to put an orca from SeaWorld in a sea cage? Yeah, I do think there are people out there who call for that. I don't want to judge their opinions because they're passionate too. I just think that first of all, the science is not clear. It is very factual that our animals are born under human care. There's never been a successful release of a whale or dolphin born under human care into the wild. And there are multiple examples of that failure. And could you physically do a sea cage or a sea pen? Yes, you could physically do it. Is it worth taking the risk to the animal? And then who takes that risk? Who pays for it? Who gets blamed if something goes bad? It's all going to be SeaWorld. And right now they get 24-hour vet care, an incredibly well taken care of water and ocean environment with the water. We just don't think it's worth the risk. Haley from Pennsylvania, I suppose. Will you still rescue orcas? Absolutely, if we're called on by the government to do so. Because they tend to be out deeper in the oceans, we don't get a lot of orca rescue calls. We do have a lot of, there's 1,000 dolphins stranded in North America alone. Sea lions, hundreds a year in San Diego. We rescue almost 1,000 last year alone. So much more on the manatee, sea lion, dolphin side than on the orca side. But certainly if called, we'll do it. We'll be there. Ryan from Nebraska. What has been the response from other AZA facilities to your partnership with HSUS, which has campaigned hard against any zoological facilities existing? I will look into this, but I asked Wayne this specific question, and he is a supporter of AZA accredited facilities where they have a lot more energy as roadside animal shows that aren't of high quality and the standards aren't high, or people having wild animals, exotic animals in their homes. And I'm not here to defend what they believe or don't believe, but they do believe in AZA high standard accredited organizations because they do know that animals in need a place to go, especially in marine mammals where there are no places for them to go. Gail from Florida, will the other animal shows stop as well? I think the answer is we're going to take the learning from the killer whale encounters, the orca encounters, and then apply that learning to the other shows. I think we just have to see over time. There are some elements that we are removing from the dolphin show right now, but over time, I think we will just see how the orca encounters are come out and what the guests say about them. Joe from California. How do Sesame Place and Busch Gardens Williamsburg fit into your vision on animal conservation centered future for the company? Well, clearly, as you allude, and Busch Tampa fits perfectly. Busch Williamsburg does have a very strong gray wolf rescue program. And although it's certainly not as extensive as the other animals we have at the other parks, they fit very clearly. Sesame clearly doesn't fit as well, and we're not going to force anything on